welcome to Movie Review Mom. Today I'm reviewing the movie The Favorite. I wore my British scarf and everything. See, I got this in London. This side has a cute little British phone booth. Cute, right? So The Favorite is about the British monarch Anne, Queen Anne, and I have really mixed feelings about this movie. I'll tell you why here in just a second. But first, it's rated R. It's an hour and 59 minutes, and I gave it a B+. So in a nutshell, the acting is exceptional. The dialogue is witty. The costumes are gorgeous. The set designs are outstanding. And this saucy costume drama and period piece is probably going to be earning several Oscar nominations. It's really well done, and it's different from what we're seeing out there in movies right now with all of the superhero movies and a lot of the remakes. So it's fresh in that sense. However, I'm not sure how much of the story is actually true, and that always bugs me. Not that it was intended to be a biopic or documentary by any stretch of the imagination, but there are some elements of the movie that I've never read to be true. And so I'm not sure if it's just Hollywood taking liberties and trying to get people to go see the movie. The big thing is that Queen Anne was a lesbian. I don't think that, who knows if it was true, really? I mean, I guess you can make a movie and say anything because we don't know for sure. But that's a huge element of this movie. Sex is a huge element of this movie, which is why it's rated R. When the movie is done, you will be left speechless and probably feeling a little dirty and grungy. At least that's how I felt. And so while I recognize it's really well done and there were some things that I really loved about it, overall, I kind of wanted to take a shower when I was done. So here's some tips for parents. It's really a rated R movie. It's not for children. If you want them to learn about Queen Anne's reign in England from this film, be sure and watch this movie with a huge filter. You can use VidAngel, for example, and filter out nudity, profanity. There's not a whole lot of violence, but just those elements are very large. You see the naked chests of several women and heaving chests of women in low-cut dresses, as well as women's rear ends. In fact, I was surprised to learn that Emma Stone actually begged director Yorgos Lanthimos to let her have a topless scene. Like, who does that? She thought it would be more shocking. Well, yeah, it was. And I always thought real actresses didn't have to have topless scenes. I know Gwyneth Paltrow did in her early days, and lots of other actresses have too. But it just seems like, have we ever seen Meryl Streep in a topless scene? If we have, I can't think of one. But anyway, so there's a lot of shocking things that will just make your jaw drop and go, wow, I can't believe they just said that. There are a lot of crude words. The C word is tossed around a lot. There are lots of F-bombs. There's just lots of profanity. Some women kiss and are seen in bed together in these lesbian relationships. There's a lot of hand motions involved in scenes with men and women. There's a naked man covering up his private parts, but he's running around a room. There's talk of rape. You see, like in a lot of scenes, there are people having sex with their clothes on, and it's not like romantic, loving, marital relationships. This is like men with prostitutes or people out in the forest or just stuff that's happening in the background, and you're like, was it really like that? Or are you just trying to get the shock value in this movie? It's unnecessary, in my opinion. I guess it's necessary if you're going for shock, and so there's a lot of that. Some of the things will just leave you aghast. On the positive note, there are some themes that I think that we can learn from. Robert Harley is one of the characters, and he's fantastic, played by Nicholas Hoult. And he says, favor is a breeze that shifts direction all the time. And that's what this movie is about. Two women who are vying for the attention of the queen, trying to earn her favor, and they do these horrible things to each other to try to advance. The movie is about decadence, revenge, power, influence, and just the decadence and it's just mind-boggling in my opinion. But let me jump to some things that I liked, and I'll maybe tell you a few more other things. First of all, the acting was fantastic. It had Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone. Some people say it's Emma's best work yet. Nicholas Hoult, I mentioned, and Olivia Colman. She plays Queen Anne. She gained some weight to play this role because Queen Anne was known to be rather heavy. I've seen statues of her in England, and they're, you know, big women. She stole every scene that she was in. She was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. She just showed such subtle emotions on her face. The camera would zoom in, and a novel was written on her face just by her expressions. It was really fantastic. I hope she wins Best Actress, at least gets nominated, for crying out loud, for Best Actress in a Picture. Really fantastic. And if you like her in a role as a monarch, check out season 3 of the TV show The Crown, where she plays an older Queen Elizabeth. Replacing the fantastic Claire Foy. I loved seasons 1 and 2 with Claire Foy. And then I heard that they were going to be recasting everybody to show a little farther in her age, Queen Elizabeth's reign. And so Olivia Colman is the new queen, and I haven't seen it yet, but I need to, and I'm sure she's just absolutely amazing. The set designs and costumes, as I mentioned, were really great, and I love that costume, the gown that the queen wears that's black, it's white with little black feathery specks. When I was a little girl, that was like the classic queen gown, and so it's just fantastic. I was really intrigued and amused by the titles on the screen that are placed before each section of the movie. You don't see that very often, and I just thought it was hilarious. Also hilarious were the verbal battles between Robert Harley and Lady Sarah. I love the bantering and the wit. And actually, the movie doesn't bring it out, but Abigail, who's played by Emma Stone, is related to both Robert Harley, the character. They were cousins of some kind. And then they do mention that because she was Lady Sarah's cousin, she went to the palace looking for a job. Now, towards the beginning of the movie, Queen Anne is building this palace for Lady Sarah and her husband, the Duke or Duchess of Marlborough, and her husband. And it's called Blenheim Palace. And as it turns out, I'm actually related to them. And because of them, I'm also related to Sir Winston Churchill and Princess Diana. So when I went to England, I went to Blenheim Palace expecting to be welcomed as the family. Well, not seriously, but I kind of hoped if I mentioned I was a descendant that I might get special access to places where tourists couldn't go. Again, that's partly tongue-in-cheek, but you never know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. Unfortunately, I slipped and fell on the gravel as I'm walking into towards the palace, and so I spent most of my time at Blenheim Palace with the first aid guys who rushed out to help me, and I seriously sliced my knee, and so I guess I left my blood at the Blood Palace of Blenheim Palace. Anyway, so that was a little scene. There's another scene that's hilarious that has Rachel Weisz, and she's dancing with a younger man, and the choreography is ridiculous. I don't know where they came up with this. I mean, again, I don't know if it's a historically accurate dance or if they were just trying to come up with something ridiculous. It's hilarious, and it causes this important scene to follow. I've never seen a film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, before. He definitely has an intriguing style, and I'm probably going to check some of his films out. I've heard that The Lobster is really great, so I'll have to check that one out. Now, an interesting element of the movie is that Queen Anne has these 17 pet rabbits, and she says that they represent the babies that she lost. She said she had miscarriages and blah, blah, blah. Now, some of that is true. Parents who have lost children will certainly understand the comment that Queen Anne made when she said, each one that dies, a little bit of you goes with them. And I know that's true. Sadly, I've had 3 miscarriages. And so you really feel for Queen Anne. She has all kinds of physical ailments, and the way that she cries and wails and carries on is ridiculous. But at the end of the movie, these rabbits take on a different meaning, and it's really insightful. And again, it will just leave you with your jaw hanging open at the end of the movie. I'm glad, as a little side note, I'm glad that they kept the British spelling of The Favorite for the title rather than changing it for American audiences. Now, some other things that I didn't like is I hated, there were these sound effects in a few scenes that sounded like a horn and a drum. They went on and on forever, and they were so annoying. And I understand the artistic value, and maybe a few toots on a horn or drum, to build tension would be fine. But it just went on and then became distracting. I would really like to talk to the director to find out why he did that. I know, obviously, he had a reason, but for me, it was just irritating. And then I mentioned the excess, the waste, the self-indulgence were so annoying. I hated seeing that, especially because I work really hard for every penny that I earn. And of course, that was part of the movie, is to replicate the period, but also the movie became kind of a farce of the time period, which was interesting. And the tone of the movie changes a little bit. Some of it seems realistic, and other times it seems like it just goes to the extreme. It's effective, I have to say, but a little bit annoying. And then the trailer of this movie actually makes it look more of a comedy than it is. The humor is there. It's very subtle, though. Some things will make you laugh, and some things will just make you shake your head. But it's really more of a drama. And some people have written on their reviews that they were like, wait, what is this that I'm seeing? Because they expected something from the trailer that didn't really turn out to be what they thought it was going to be. And then my other complaint is the movie poster. It doesn't really pop. Because of that, I think the movie has flown under the radar for a lot of moviegoers. The Academy will certainly pay attention to it. And like I said, I'm really curious to see what kind of Oscar nominations it's going to get, and it does deserve some. Some of the funny lines are have to do with Emma Stone and how she's so charming. She kind of gets abused when she first gets there by some of the housekeeping staff, and she says, some of my colleagues are immune to my charms. And then later she says, as it turns out, I'm capable of much unpleasantness. And then Queen Anne and Lady Sarah are talking, and Queen Anne says, you are too mean and uncaring some days. And Lady Sarah, who is all business, she says, but some days I'm quite lovely, though. Let's think on them. And the relationship that Lady Sarah and the Queen have is really fascinating. Some interesting lines are when Lady Sarah says, love has limits. And the Queen says, it should not, which is an interesting conversation starter. Should love be without limits? Should it be unconditional? I don't know. What do you think? I would love to hear. You can write down in your comments below. I'd love to get a conversation started. And then Marlborough, the husband of Lady Sarah, says, a man's dignity is the one thing that holds him back from running amok. Well, in this movie, you see a lot of people running amok, and yet they have dignity. They're in the court, the Queen's court, and it's just crazy and such an interesting contrast. Another thing that Godolphin says, who's played by James Smith. He says, "I do not know of women and their feelings, but I know they nurse their hurts like wailing newborns," which of course is referring to Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz playing Lady Sarah and Abigail, and this rivalry that they have that just goes beyond crazy. All right, so whether or not you should see this movie is obviously completely up to you, but just a little warning, it may or may not be what you expect. It is definitely worthy of some accolades, but like I said, there are some other elements that just don't need to be in the movie that you may just think, oh, I think I'll skip that. But anyway, let's pay attention to the Academy nominations, which will be coming up in a few weeks, and I'm really curious to see if this gets on the list. In the meanwhile, be sure and hit subscribe to Movie Review Mom, and also go to moviereviewmom.com where you can see my full written movie reviews, and as well as ones that I haven't done YouTube videos for. You can also write to me on moviereviewmom.com, and I will add you to my newsletter and send you a free report that tells you how to watch movies for free. In the meanwhile, have a great time at the movies, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.